Yeah, sorry, all I wanted to say, one final point was whether we're in the Amlin or the Heineken Cup, our central funding doesn't change. The 4 Welsh regions signed an agreement at the dawn of professionalism that one region wouldn't suffer. So whether it's the Dragons, the Blues, the Scarlets, the Ospreys, whoever falls out, because going forward there'll always be one that's in the Challenge Cup. But we all agreed that all the funding gets centralised, gets split 4 ways.
Do you think it would be a good idea to increase the terrace facility to other parts of the ground? Would there be financial benefits or increase the atmosphere? From John and Mary and Maya and Neil?
It's an interesting question, and it's something that coming into look at the stadium and the makeup of it and the feel of it is something that we're obviously pretty unique in having in a new stadium to have a terraced area. I honestly expected that the terrace area would be a very popular attraction to our fans. But what we found this year is that other than the Ospreys game, the seats in the stand are selling far better than they are in the enclosure. To the extent that when we played the Blues most recently, and it was a fantastic effort from our fans to get over 10,000 here for that game. And we opened the third stand, we opened the end stand, and that was because the seats were gone, but there was still plenty of room in the enclosure. So I don't know if there would be a benefit either financially to us, but certainly I don't know whether the call is there for the terrace any longer. I understand that a lot of people are very committed and do want the terrace, and what we've got there, I believe, at the moment is proving to be sufficient for that need.
Oh yes, come on Antonia.
I'm afraid I'm going to chip in on a PR. One thing I'd like to say is that that terrace area has been a massive thing for us in terms of the storylines that we've had this season, because it's generated from there how the support has been behind us, the loyalty of the support, the commitment of our supporters home and away. And if PR ruled the world, which it doesn't, had my way, we would, that terrace would be full and it would be expanded, because it's a unique part of our story. It was a big part of our story when we arrived here, and when I'm taking journalists around and I show them the stadium for the first time, if they haven't been here, it's something that they always latch onto, that connection between the players and the supporters, that closeness is something that we've tried to replicate from Stradey in a modern day context. And I think from our point of view, it's kind of the hub of our support, and even if it's not full, it's loud, it's noisy, and it gives us some great exposure in the media and gets people talking about how great our support is. So I'd like to see more of it.
Chances one question and gets an applause.
And you're not having a big one.
True. One for Paul. Who has the final say in business decisions? Is it you or the financial backers?
The directors take an interest in the business. Of course they do. Why should they? They're very passionate about the stadium, very passionate about the Scarlets. They put an awful lot into it, not just monetary, but in terms of time and time and effort. And so I think it's a very, very good, healthy working relationship, and long may that continue.
One from Mike. Well, it's two in one. It talks about, is the stadium a commercial success? If not, why not? I think that sort of sums that up. And then the other one that you mentioned earlier, what is the current situation regarding sponsorship and revenues?
Tough to say whether the stadium on its own is a commercial success. It's a bit based purely on numbers. Us black-hearted accountants would say not yet, but we do believe in the future it could be. What was the
other one was about what sponsorship? Are we moving in the right direction in respect to revenues?
Surprisingly, yes. I say surprisingly because of the last couple of years of what Gordon Brown referred to very unwisely as negative growth. In other words, shrinkage. So we have had sponsors go broke on us, owing us money. We had to write off the best part of £100,000 in bad debts. But despite all that, the numbers are pointing the right way, yes.
One for Paul. Realistically, this is from Martin and Sinclair's, what is the target for next year's average attendance? If we were to be in a Heineken, do you think 8,000 average is realistic? There was a very good point from Keith. We announced at the weekend we've gone well past the 100,000 barrier for attendances, and it was mentioned that it was on 20 games. It's actually based on 14 games in the season, so we're still on our average of about just over 7,500.
Quickly trying to work that out.
Yeah.
The accountants will work that out while I'm talking. Yeah.
So is there an average?
Yeah, more than this year. Yeah. Well, I think the way John and I've worked in business is you take the average and look at the average of the previous year, look at those factors around you, and what are you going to build on that? It would be crazy to say, well, if we've averaged, for argument's sake, 7,000 this year, we should be aiming at 8,500 next year. Is that realistic? I don't think so. That's a massive increase. Great target. There's no harm in having targets to aim for. We're just actually starting to go through the budget process. The first budget meeting was today. Next one starts in 11 hours' time tomorrow. So over the course of the next 4 or 5 days, it's quite a timely question, which I'm probably not going to answer. But over the next 4 or 5 days, we're going to be starting working on those numbers. Yes, we want to see an increased average attendance. It's tough to say what it's going to be. We won't, in our numbers, be writing down our average attendance based on us not being in the Heineken Cup if we're in the Amlin. We've got a pretty strong belief that Amlin Cup is a meaningful competition. It's not the prime competition, we all know that. But it is a much more meaningful competition now than it probably was 2 or 3 years ago. And we believe that competition is going to go from strength to strength. And I think it's going to be quite a competition to be involved in. So.
Finally, are there any major high-cost incidental or one-off costs that we're having to put a contingency together for? So,
I suppose just on that, and John might want to answer that in a second, because obviously in the 8 or 9 months I've been here, I've read and heard about on a number of occasions this figure that was announced some time ago. A break-even figure is 9,000 per game. It might have been then, doesn't mean that's the case now, because the work that's put in terms of managing your operating costs and efficient running of the building on game days, and the people that were involved in the design and build of this place got it right. So our operating costs, from the work that John and Hugh in particular have done, have brought those costs right down. So there's this kind of number of 9,000, a break-even figure of 9,000. I think is something that should be put to bed. I don't believe it is that. What it is, it's going to be quite a bit less than that now.
Yeah. The other point, of course, with the attendance figures is it's a great benchmark for where we are, but it's only relative to the cost of the revenue or the revenue that's generated as a result of it in reality. And that's not just the sale of the ticket, that's the cost of the spend per head while people are here and so on. But we could get 9,000 people in here for every game, but what the revenue would be generated from, I don't know. So it is a good question, and it always will be a good benchmark, but it's not the be all and end all either. But it's certainly part of our discussions and strategies when we've talked about season ticket and ticket prices for next year. It's balancing the whole equation as opposed to just taking one element of it.
Just the other one, just about, are there any big one-off costs you're anticipating in the future? No. Oh. There we are.
Just on that, you're not up for a pay rise, but
And while you've got the microphone, is there any chance of us going for another sporting franchise to help generate income for the region, e.g. the Celtic Crusaders, the representative here?
If ever there was something that was going to pay its way and be commercially viable, the answer is yes.
We host other events, e.g. Welsh Football Cup finals or internationals. Do we give the stadium clean, or do we make profits for selling hospitality, drinks, food on those events? So
we have to negotiate a fair deal to bring the event in, and what it doesn't do is cost us money. So that's certainly the base. There was much talk about the Dragons, for example, and hats off to everybody that got in and made that happen in a very, very short space of time.
I think I've tried to encapsulate as many, all the questions as possible. I'll open it up to the floor. Unfortunately.